Hi everyone. So I'm gonna make this quick because I'm home alone right now and I would hopefully want to finish this recording before I'm not. I'm still on my break. I have to go back to school Thursday. I don't want to go back to school Thursday. Um, so yeah, we're gonna figure that out. Maybe I'll fake sick again. Actually, I was actually sick that 1 week. So in today's video, this is my first 2026, or well, technically first 2025, first 2026, and first 2027 governor prediction for the midterms, basically the midterm cycle. So yeah, we see here every single state's up in the next few years. Virginia and then New Jersey are up in 2025, so this year, November. And then you have the rest of the states up in 2026. And you have Louisiana, Mississippi, and Kentucky that want to be special and do their elections after every single other state's done it. Which, first of all, these off-year elections are supposed to give us insight into 2026, not be the insight from past elections. It's kind of stupid, but oh well. I guess I don't get to make the decision on that. But if I did, there'd be a few things I'd change. So, you guys did not come to hear about my inner monologue. You came to look at this video. Or make fun of me in the comments. Or both. Most likely both. So, without any further ado, let's get on with the video. So, Democratic safe states, I think California, Hawaii, Colorado. Actually, maybe not Illinois. I'm going to hesitate on that. Maryland and Massachusetts, these are two flips from 2022. Republican incumbents used to be in the state. Very popular Republican incumbents. Then didn't run in 2022. The seat slipped back to the Democrats. But then I think Rhode Island. For Republicans, I think they went Idaho, Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota. I'm tempted on Oklahoma because we take a look at Stitt. He is term limited because he was a very bad incumbent before, like 2018, 12.1, even 2014. This was an R plus 6 national environment. Like this seat's been pretty competitive, but Oklahoma's not the same Oklahoma it once was. It got a bit redder. I think see Republicans pick it off by over 15. Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee. I think that's it. Oh, and Vermont. So that puts them at 15. Democrats at 9. You don't technically get anything for winning the majority of governorships, but gives you more state legislator control. And I sound tired. It's because I've been waking up at 12:30 every single day, and it's currently 11:30, and I've been up since 8 because my mom woke me up for some reason. So that's that. Let's talk about some of these states. Let's talk about Colorado first. Jared Polis, okay, Jared Polis, he's a very popular incumbent. However, he is term limited in the state. He can't run again, but he won by 19 against Heidi Ganahl. He won in 2018 by, I can't remember the margin, it was a 10.6% margin, so not the best. But Colorado is definitely bluer than it once was. Even if we take a look at the presidential race back in 2024, I say back in 2024 when it was 2 months ago, we see Colorado has a decent Hispanic population, and compared to all the other Hispanic areas with huge Hispanic populations in it, Texas was an 8-point shift. New Mexico was a 5-point shift. Arizona was a 6-point shift. Nevada was a 5-point shift. California was an almost 10-point shift. And then Colorado was a 2.5% shift. And we take a look. So we see El Paso County. This is the largest county in the entire state. It shifted towards shifted towards Kamala Harris. And only reason Trump did decent in the states because he actually got Paro Arapahoe County, Adams County, and then Denver County. Like these counties shifted towards Republicans by a decent amount. So yeah. Colorado, bluer year, bluer Colorado. See that. California, I would have put California in likely if Gavin Newsom was a candidate, but he was not. He's not running anymore. He can't. He is officially term limited. Presidential 2028 hopeful. I say hopeful because that's the only thing he can do. He can hope he won't be the nominee. Be to say something about Donald Trump, but that's different. Oh, well, what did I do? What the heck? Okay. So yeah, he is term limited. He can't run anymore. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, that's enough. For Republican and Democratic likely states, these are states within 5 to 15. And those states are, oh, just before I forget, Vermont has a liberal Republican, in case you didn't know, very liberal Republican. I think he was elected back in, I think it was 2016. I could be wrong, but I think it was 2016. Yeah, got elected in 2016 on the same ballot, actually. Um, Hillary Clinton and not so do not good in the state, honestly. And then won again in 2018. Then we really saw his popularity. He won by 41% in 2020. And then by 2022, he won by 47%. And then in 2024, he won his race by a huge amount. He won his race by 51%, which is insane if you think about the fact that Kamala Harris won her race by 30%. And there was an independent, a Democrat, and Republican on the same ticket, each of which won their races by over 40%. So really, really cool if you think about Vermont. The New England politics are really interesting. Before I do that, I'm gonna add Iowa and Ohio. Maybe actually I'm not gonna add Iowa. Do I want to add Iowa? I'm gonna add Ohio, Florida, and Iowa to the safe column. Florida, a Democrat, even if what's a good example? Even if JFK, uh, John F. Kennedy came back from the dead, ran in Florida, I think a dead goldfish would still somehow win the race, just because the Republicans have done so good in Florida in recent years. We see almost all he won 69% of Cubans, 56% of Hispanic Puerto Ricans, 58% of Latinos. We see huge, huge margins. Congressional wise, Republicans are, I mean, it's a gerrymandered map, but Republicans are doing very good in Florida. They've irked out in voter registration, which they have not done until at least 2020. Iowa is at 18.5% margin, but Kim Reynolds, it's kind of unpopular. Honestly, she's very unpopular in the state. Pat Grassley is not running for this. He is running for re-election. Okay. No. Oh wait, this is Pat Grassley, not Chuck Grassley. He can run all he wants. He can run all he wants. Ken Reynolds, I think, maybe I won't put it in safe. Ohio's interesting because not only do you have a vacant governor's race because 2026 Mike DeWine is term limited, you have an open Senate race which Mike DeWine is supposed to appoint a senator to. It's gonna be honestly, it's gonna be either John Husted or Frank LaRose, honestly, or for some reason Josh Rendell. If he wins that race, I think Democrats have a decent shot at flipping it because of how unpopular he is. But Mike DeWine, he won his race by 25%, so this was no short feat. It was a really impressive margin, honestly. I think that carries over, even though he is term limited. Safe Republican state. And I don't think I want to put South Carolina in safe. For Democrats, there's likely states are going to be New Mexico, Oregon. I'm gonna speedrun this. Minnesota, Ohio, Illinois, Virginia, New Jersey. My God, these are two races up in 2021. I think. I'll talk about them in a minute. Maine, Connecticut, New Jersey, and so with the likely Democratic states, they are up to 18 seats. So Oregon, history of competitive governor's races. We go back to 2018. Kate Brown was a very unpopular candidate. She only won her race by 6.4. In the race before that, in 2014, this race has a history of being pretty competitive. In 2022, uh, Johnson, so she ran, she was an independent, and she pretty much siphoned votes away from both parties. But polls did say she hurt more Dryden than Kotek. But I just think because of the lean of the state, Kotek will do better because she came off a very unpopular Kate Brown administration. I do think it's going to be closer than people think it is because Oregon has a history of very, very competitive governor's races. In New Mexico, we see New Mexico. Grisham won by 6.4 in 2022. And the race before that, she won by 14.4 against Pierce. He was the former very popular representative in the competitive House district, currently held by Gabe Vasquez. Ron Chetty might try to run again. Overall, New Mexico is definitely one of those states where it's not a very elastic state, and the Republicans think they have a chance in the state, which they probably don't. And Democrats think it's one of their very rock solid safe states, which it's not. Similar in Virginia and New Mexico, very similar in that they have a minority population that dictates the state, and Republicans think they can win the state, and they won't. They might get an upset, but probably not. Minnesota, you have Tim Walz, his seat. I should think Tim Walz did more hurt to Kamala than help. He won his race, and now he has definitely a lot more name recognition. So we see here Tim Walz, he is running. I do think he wins by a likely margin. Illinois is a right trending state, and Jamie Pritzker only won by 12.5 against Darren Bailey. This was actually a flip come 2018, where Jamie Pritzker beat Bruce Bronner, who actually won his race in 2014. Pretty impressive. Jamie Pritzker has expressed interest. He is not term limited. He can run for another term. And there was this scandal with him, honestly, with the whole Seltzer poll, which it's not really a big deal, but Donald Trump did sue Seltzer. It's kind of funny. And then that's enough about Illinois. I think it's gonna be likely like 13-point margin. Virginia is interesting because you have Glenn Youngkin who won his race back in 20 he won his race back in 2021 against Terry McAuliffe, the former incumbent. It's really weird because in Virginia, you can't run consecutive second terms, but you can run second terms. So what a bunch of candidates do is Terry McAuliffe. Take a look. We have to go all the way back to 2009 for this. So you have Bob McDonald, who couldn't run. So Terry McAuliffe ran. Then he couldn't run again, so Ralph Northam ran. And then Glenn Youngkin ran against Terry McAuliffe, which is interesting. So now Glenn Youngkin can't run. He is a presidential hopeful or slash vice presidential hopeful for 2028. So you have that. He might run for Senate. For Republicans, you have Winsome Sears, who is, first of all, I think she can appeal to the African American vote that is drifting away from Fairfax from the Republicans in areas like that. And then you have Abigail Spanberger, who is very well known in the state for being in a very competitive House race, flipping it back in 2018, holding on to it, and then winning again. This is currently Vindman's seat. And you have Bobby Scott, who might run. You might want to stable. Democrats, if they were smart, they might want to stabilize black turnout from completely collapsing. So New Jersey Democrats have been held to a horrible card because if Citarelli runs, he's a very, very strong candidate. And Phil Murphy, he is term limited, so it's an open race. I think Josh Gottenheimer could do a decent job in this state because we take a look at New Jersey. Citarelli outperformed Trump in the rural areas, which is honestly unheard of. A Republican outperforming Donald Trump in the rural areas, but he did worse in Newark, like Morris County, Passaic County. He did worse in those counties. Those two counties Trump won, which Morris County did go for Citarelli, but Passaic County did not. So I do think Bluebird National Environment, I think I could say like a 9-point margin in each state. Connecticut, not much to say about Connecticut, honestly. Bob Stefanowski is eyeing another run. So this is a third consecutive run against the same Democratic candidate, Ned Lamont, who he only won by 3% in 2018. He only won by about 3%. And he could have lost because Oz Gabriel, he ran in 2020. You think he ran in 2028. 2018 he ran and he actually got 3.89% of the vote. And we take a look here in 2018, it was decided by 3.2. So Republicans could have picked off the Connecticut governor's race, honestly, if that spoiler candidate not existed. But there is no spoiler now. Lamont won by a comfortable 13%. Not a good 13%, though. He won all the competitive congressional races. Circa 2026. He's not term limited, but he's not declared he's running for re-election, so it is still up in the air. New York and Maine. I'm gonna do Maine right now and then come back to New York. Janet Mills is term limited. She might run for Senate. If she wants for Senate, she might win. She has a name recognition. And then you have Shanna Bellows, Jared Golden, and Troy Jackson, who I think would be the best candidates. Jared Golden should honestly just stay in his house race. Shanna Bellows and Troy Jackson. Shanna Bellows, I do think, will win the nomination. And then for Republicans, we have Bruce Polkwin, who I think is a decent-ish candidate. He ran against Golden in the 2018 race, won in the outright vote, and then lost for ranked choice voting. Tried to sue and win his race. He did not. He lost. And yeah, Bruce Polkwin, likely-ish margin, because Maine is also one of those states that it's a really weird state because they can elect Olympia Snowe, who was up until 2012 the Republican. So until 2013, Republicans had two seats in Maine. Now there's an independent, and on the same ballot you have a Jared Golden who outperforms the Kamala Harris in the second district of Maine by 8 points. Actually, like 10 points, actually closer to 10. Okay. New York is an interesting state too. A lot of these states are interesting because you have Kathy Hochul, who, well, Kathy Hochul, very interesting candidate because we go back to 2018 against Mark Molinaro versus Andrew Cuomo. This was a safe margin. We saw the entirety of Long Island went blue, and then the up New York, upstate, pretty competitive. Then Lee Zeldin solidified it. He won Nassau County. He got one of the boroughs in New York decently close. And then by 2026, Kathy Hochul's a very, very unpopular candidate. Her administration is like hated, honestly, by a lot of people. Kathy Hochul's the only declared candidate. Canada, honestly, worse would be Jamal Bowman. If he actually runs, that'd be kind of hilarious. And then you have Mike Lawler, who I think is Republicans' best candidate. He would be giving up a House race, honestly, because that is actually a Kamala district he won in, which is pretty impressive because there's only three in the entire country. He would probably do better in the Hudson Valley than Lee Zeldin did. Lee Zeldin did good in the, what's it called? Like the boroughs in Nassau County and Long Island, which isn't even an island. So it depends. You want to trade the Hudson Valley for Lee Zeldin and the areas because Republicans pretty much got the Long Island area on lock. So for likely Republican states, okay, I think they're gonna be Kansas, Kentucky, South Carolina, Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, Alaska, and then Iowa. So that gets them 25 seats. So they automatically tie the governor's majority, which in hindsight, it doesn't really matter. Alaska's weird because do I want to put Alaska in safe is the question. Because it all depends on ranked choice voting, which if Democrats can nominate one candidate and not 27, if Democrats can nominate someone who's not an independent, they could actually do decently good in the state because Bill Walker did take a significant amount of votes from Les Guerra, or Les Guerra took a significant amount of votes from former Governor Bill Walker. Probably won't see that in 2026. Alaska barely got its ranked choice voting thing. Alaska voted for ranked choice voting to keep it by 600 votes and was certified like a few weeks ago. And then Texas is interesting. Actually, Texas is going to be a very boring race. Abbott's probably going to win by similar margin. A he's not very popular among Trump Republicans. He's considered a rhino, but he can probably appeal to at least somewhat independents. And not a single Democrat has declared they'll win, so they might as well just like honestly sacrifice this race and invest in other places. I think they might do something similar in Florida, put the sacrificial lamb up. South Carolina is interesting because Henry McMaster, I do believe he is term limited against Joe Cunningham. Joe Cunningham, he actually won his race back. He won his House race back in 2018. Then he lost to Nancy Mace. You might recognize Nancy Mace from all the controversial bathroom bills. Texting me. Okay. So you have Nikki Haley of Nancy. I think Nancy Mace versus Nikki Haley would be a epic primary challenge. Honestly, Nancy Mace would probably just win out of principle, because yeah, she's also Tim Scott, but he probably won't run anyway. It's also a marginally Republican likely state, and then you have Kentucky. So I honestly forgot about Kentucky. So Kentucky's an interesting state because you have in 2019, Andy Bashir, he basically ran off the fact his dad was the former governor, Steve Bashir. He ran off his nepotism. Matt Bevin, he did lose re-election narrowly. And then we saw Daniel Cameron, he lost by 5 percentage points in Kentucky in this election. But he is term limited. He is a presidential hopeful, Andy Bashir. And we could see Jacqueline Coleman, she could run for because she's lieutenant governor, so she'll have some name recognition against Andy Bashir. Well, not against Andy Bashir, for Andy Bashir's seat. So we see here Kentucky, likely state. I'm under the assumption she will run. Kansas is a marginally Republican state because we have to. Laura Kelly, she wasn't as popular as other partisan state Republicans slash Democrats. And she also, spoiler effect, first of all, Republicans back in 2014, we saw Sam Brown back. Very, very unpopular administration. Sam Brown back barely won his race by about 3 points. Come 2018, Laura Kelly got 58% and 48% of the vote. Chris Kobach, very unpopular, got 42, and then Greg Orman got 6.5. And you had Derek Schmidt versus Laura Kelly. Spoiler effect, more spoiler effects. We see 2 districts in Kansas actually voted for Laura Kelly. We see here she won her race by about 2-ish%. She is term limited, however, so this would probably be an automatic flip for the Republicans. Automatic flip, honestly, same with Kentucky. Louisiana and Mississippi. There's also to Mississippi. Mississippi is an interesting race. I know a lot of these are interesting because Reeves only won by 3% against Presley and somehow won 30 congressional races. So, if no, Mississippi has ranked choice voting too. Washington says runoff, not ranked choice voting. 2027, come 2027. Tate Reeves cannot run for re-election, so I do think it becomes a likely state. Louisiana is a race where you have 2019. John Bel Edwards was the very, very popular governor, won in 2015. I believe before that, did not win in 2011. He won every single county in the state, and John Bel Edwards came and won a lot of counties in the state. This is range where they used to use runoff, but then Bill Cassidy, their current governor Landry, signed into law the removal of ranked choice voting. So we're gonna see here. He'll win his race by a likely margin. Initially, no, I think he'll win his race by a safe margin. And then we see Iowa. Iowa is a pretty Republican state, probably going to be near safe. Not much to talk about there. And so you have the very, very familiar 7 battlegrounds and New Hampshire. But New Hampshire was more competitive than Nevada, Arizona, and New North Carolina. So that's saying something. For lean Republican states, I think they win Nevada, and then New Hampshire, Michigan, Georgia, and then Arizona all vie those margins. Actually, Arizona, I'm hesitant. I'm gonna move it to tilt. Nevada will start. Joe Lombardo is a very popular candidate. He's in a Trump plus three state. You see this, and he actually didn't win his. He actually Joe Lombardo. He was a former sheriff of Las Vegas, so he has Clark County appeal. He only won by 1.5%, and he did not actually win Clark or Washoe County. He just did very, very well in Clark and Washoe County. We actually see Adam Laxalt did very badly against, well, actually not very badly. He didn't do the best against Steve Sisolak. Joe Lombardo, Republican history in Nevada. They have nominated a bunch of. You take a look at Brian Sandoval back in 2014. He won his race by 70%, which is insane. 70% in Nevada. He won Clark County. He won Washoe County. You take a look. Come 2026, he is a vulnerable Republican, and you have Eric Ford, the Nevada Attorney General, who I don't think it will flip, honestly. I might move it down to tilt. So, er, New Hampshire is a partisan state, not very partisan. Come 2024, Kelly Ayotte won her race by 8.9%. She was 9.3. So, this was a decent Republican performance. I had her losing. She didn't lose. So I think she'll win by a lean margin just because Jean Shaheen will be on the ticket, but that hasn't stopped Chris Sununu in the past from winning by pretty decent margins. So probably won't stop by Yacht. I just think 2024 was such a good year for Republicans. Georgia, we see Georgia is shifting towards the Democrats. I think Republicans can squeak out one more governor's race victory in the state. Because in 2022, Brian Kemp won by 7.5. He definitely helped Herschel Walker. In 2018 against Stacey Abrams, he only won his race by about 1.8%, 1.4% actually, and did okay, I guess. And then back 2014, Nathan Deal won his race by a very large amount. He actually won quite a few counties, while some counties here actually voted against him for Jason Carter. In 2026, Republicans, I do think they squeak out. You have Chris Carr. Don't nominate. You have decent candidates and bad candidates. Burt Jones would be like a generic Republican. Chris Carr and Brad Raffensperger would be very good candidates. Brad Raffensperger would probably alienate a bunch of Republican Trump base after the phone calls and all that stuff and the refusal to certify 2020. And then you have Stacey Abrams who might run again. Jason Carter, who was the former grandson of former Governor Jimmy Carter. Then Lucy McBath, who honestly speaking, Stacey Abrams would not be able to do good in this race. She is a failed candidate. She's ran. She honestly she did her part in flipping Georgia blue for the first time. So that's it. Michigan. Michigan, I know a lot of people who don't know the state of the race in Michigan might be confused. First, Whitmer is term limited. It's the word. And you have Pete Buttigieg, and the carpetbagging allegations would not go away as he is from Indiana and he might run in Minnesota, in the Democratic primary in the state of Michigan. So if we set the carpetbag allegations again behind it all, we'll see the same thing in Michigan. Also, Republicans, they don't really have a decent candidate base. Might try to run, they might run John James or Lisa McLean or Peter. If they run Peter Meyer, decent candidate. I think their best candidate would be Mike Rogers because he barely lost the Senate race against a very popular, very popular. What's her name? Alyssa Slotkin. And this is why the race is going to be lean. So Mike Duggan, the mayor of Detroit, he very popular governor from Detroit, shifted his partisanship to be an independent, which is going to siphon a few votes away. I think with that, it'd be a 3-point margin. He'll probably siphon votes from Detroit, and probably some Democrats, honestly. Republicans, if they can coalesce among one candidate, I think it'll be a lean margin. For Democrats, tilt states. One lean and tilts. I'm going to do them together. Pennsylvania will be a lean, and then Wisconsin, I think, will also be a lean. It's tilt state. Tony Evers, it's really interesting because Tony Evers won by 1.1 against the former governor, Walker. And in 2022, they opted to nominate Tim Michaels versus Rebecca Cleafage, who I think would have been a much better candidate. And he lost his race by 3.4%, meaning that there was a Trump and Evers had a 4-point deficit between the two, which is pretty cool. Bipartisanship. Pennsylvania is interesting. Josh Shapiro won by 14.8 against the candidate Republicans, basically. They abandoned him. Like, they won every single competitive House race in the state. Well, Josh Shapiro did. Josh Shapiro was the nominee. And then we saw Mastriano. We see Mastriano. Lou Barletta would have been a so much better candidate. He would have lost a single margin, but he would have been such a better candidate. Brian Fitzpatrick would honestly be the best candidate Republicans could run. You also have Garrity. See if I can find it. Republican primary. I have to go to 2024. You have Garrity, Stacey Garrity, who is the Pennsylvania State Treasurer, and Dan Musser, the representative from Pennsylvania's ninth. I think it'll be a lean margin, and then two states left, Nevada and Arizona. So Republicans somehow get their best majority in the governorship in years. Since 2014, they get their best majority in the governorship. 33 seats back then. Just to think, Republicans, they used to have 33 seats in the governorship. Kind of cool. And then it came down to 26 during the end of 2022. But they go up to 30 with retirements in three states. So it'll be the end of 2027. They'll have this many seats. Arizona, I made a whole video on Arizona. Check that out in the comment section. I might link it. I might not. Just find it. She beat a very unpopular lake because I feel like people fail to realize people in Arizona do not vote for a Democrat. They vote against Carrie Lake. That's the truth. Carrie Lake won as Secretary of State race, barely won her race, and that was after a very popular Republican got primaried out in that race for a not so popular Trump Republican. And then we saw in 2024 she overperformed expectations by a huge amount. She lost. She lost Maricopa County by 5. But I think she win. I think Karen Taylor Robson, she got the Trump endorsement. She got the establishment. Kimberly Yee would also be a very good candidate. 30-20 is my final map. Republicans flip seats in Arizona, Kansas, Kentucky, Michigan, and that's it, honestly. Republicans flip those seats. Wait, they had to flip. So bye. Oh, and Democrats left Virginia. That's what.